Well, it is my honor and privilege to have a conversation with John Savage. You are one of my heroes in acting. I am a huge fan of your work, and what a
Thank you.
body of work you have.
And Tony Toscano. This is my first time, I guess, we've talked, but I admire what you're doing right now in
I, I've
the
missed
event
you
of
on the
your.
junkets. Every time we've had a junket on a movie of yours, you're not there. So
Oh
this is.
no. Well, I'm gonna stay in touch with you. We have to more. We have to stay more in touch in this world today.
I think so, and I think I think I love communication. It's why I've done this for 50 years. It's been a great career. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I was just saying, if you've done this amount of communicating for 50 years, and in the shape you're in right now, I'm thinking I could nominate you. I would nominate you for leadership, the highest role that I could think of,
well,
whatever
speaking
that.
of nominations, congratulations being considered for the Emmy. What a terrific honor that is.
Well, there's so much to say about a lot of these award shows that what we've got in my business, our business of media and television and Wi-Fi and cable, and we have some incredible stories, that are being shown. Entertainment, if you want to say, is really grown. Um, Sports, I can watch so many different areas of sports all over the world. My acquaintance with Nelson Mandela over the years, I remember him saying while I was there how sports could possibly help bring peace to the world.
Mhm.
And like these stories, a lot of us are gaining a little more of our knowledge about other people in our world and what's going on with our own country and people of all different uh, areas of our country, whether they're in service overseas. Like this show
Mhm.
really brings us to today. And for me, I've grown up with that experience of people, men and women in service. And today, more than ever, there's a tremendous amount of women involved with ranking positions in military active duty all over the world, with the support of all kinds of people involved at home and connected to other parts of the world. And in our own communities, when I go to these meetings that I'm invited to, for whatever you want to call it, it's support or recovery, and all kinds of people, maybe not just for military service, but this need for support groups of some kind. It sounds like a little wimpy, but in our area of communities now, there's that need for recognition of others that have similarities that some people will not relate to. Whether it's military service or firefighting or police action or there's a need. Well, we could say maybe psychological help.
Yeah.
Oh God, don't talk about that too much. Or just maybe spiritual support. Speak of the devil or the higher power. The idea that we need help in this world today more than ever, just to kind of accept the changes that are going on in other people. We have challenges going on in our neighbors and our families, and whether it's mental challenges, mental health, physical disorders, um, addictions,
Yeah.
or financial insecurity, and a lot of emotional stress. Whether it's a kid really angry at the world and trying to find some release, and be committing crimes to get what they feel they need, and this has grown to a level where maybe we need each other more, Matt, rather than building, wars. I see the difficulty in police and other areas. They're now financially supported for terrorist attacks
Yeah.
now for the smallest community. But where's the day when a cop used to work the beat, talk to everybody? I
Yeah,
have good
he was a
friends.
part of a community, and we
Yeah.
seem to have gone through a stretch where we've alienated people from our communities. The cop on the beat, the school teacher, the crossing guard. Everybody seems to be alienated.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of excitement. I remember in the 50s when I was young, starting to see the world a little bit better at 4 or 5 years old. I mean, parties, alcohol, drinking, smoking, and then some people shooting themselves.
Yeah.
Why? Emotional stress. A lot of people served and came through the Depression and made it, and then they, like their parents, went to serve in the Second World War. They'd already grown up with a lot of stress around them, maybe alcoholism or
And they were taught
emotional.
to swallow that stress. Shows like SEAL Team does do a lot to show that it's okay to feel something. It's okay to express yourself. Where years ago, when we were growing up, that wasn't
These
manly. You manned it out. You walked it off. And
and a lot of great people, a lot of really stoic leadership with people who had suffered, and lost their relationships. My dad's lost his whole squad in the Corps at Guadalcanal,
yeah,
and quiet, toughest kid on the block, but these huge 6'8", huge hands. And one of his ways for getting through things, even though he had injuries, he had big feet, big hands, and he had some broken bones in the areas. But he'd shoot baskets with me at 5 years old, or he'd take me out on a golf course as a little kid.
mm.
He was a champion athlete, swimmer, a lifeguard on Jones Beach as a kid. I look at this squad, and of course the leadership of the squad, David Boreanaz, he has captured that role of being a squad leader, and a big transition from his other great show he was on, with forensics and
Hmm.
stuff. He had a sense of humor with intelligence on that one. This one, oh, I can see him swallowing a lot of stuff, and it's even brought out more, and is at this point in the show, 10 years maybe, I think, in active duty, with people losing men,
Yeah.
women, commanding officers who are women back in the camp, and this position of being a leader. These men, especially the incredible training of this area of service in the SEAL team, they are the top elite, and they are individuals. They have a team of men who are very independent,
Yeah.
And they do need to work together as a team, but they are completely self-sufficient, and in their training, years of training, years of sacrifice, years of duty. And in the film I got to do, the last full measure, was a Vietnam story, like the Deer Hunter. But even in that one, it showed that effect of service and duty after service, in dealing with family, in coming home, which I was so grateful to play a dad in SEAL Team. To play a dad who has his own stuff going on, but his team was his family, his wife, his son, and the land became it, and his horses, but he lost that level of really knowing who anybody was. He would go to the bar and probably drank a bit. And this young lady who grew up with his son, he shared some time talking to her, and she as a woman, she was compassionate, and she grew to a place where the little moments in our episodes together were, for me, so welcome. I meet so many people over the years. I go to these meetings, and whether I served or not, I grew up with that. And the people, I mean, even now, who are part of recovery after sobriety or
Yeah.
after psychological, which is never enough, groups in recovery, the world they come back to rarely, and there is a tremendous effort usually in men and women to adapt, to get a job. And we have a problem in our whole country today. And I saw this happening even as a little boy. After the Second World War, this country was not rich.
Yeah.
You know, but the government helped. People who were active in their process of accumulating strength in business or other stuff, whether it was what we call the Pentagon military industrial complex, gained a lot of power, whatever that might have been. Steel industry, oil, blah, 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 military products, science, a lot of growth with science in our world today, which science, I guess, is discredited by a large amount of people. But the idea that the government had consideration, the government was the people.
Yeah.
And people were given GI Bill support. You could get a car. I remember my mom was educated, highly educated, which was actually stressful for her, and I witnessed that as a kid. You know, independence is not always a good idea. She needed help. And she was trying to help my big dad, tiny little mom. And sometimes, you know, he had to pull himself together, stand up to his full height in the morning after having nightmares.
Yeah.
She really couldn't help him with. They had to stay distant in the bedroom. I mean, he was 6'8", one arm going flying, and boom, break a wall.
Yeah, we kind of share that. My father fought at Anzio, and came back. You know,
You had family from Italy.
Yeah.
In service in Anzio.
And he went to Palermo for a while too. But
God bless him. Wow. My dad brought me to meet a guy who had started a little restaurant, 2 tables. I remember 2 tables, and he had fought in the American Army.
Yeah.
And he brought family, maybe a father, to America. And that was who was in the tiny little restaurant. My dad went, and he did this because he didn't know a lot of Marines who had survived in our area. But he would that big handed go out to somebody who had served. That was his way of getting out of his head.
People don't come back the same, and they need a voice. And back then, we didn't understand that. I think today we're better. We treat our GIs better, but we don't give them the full benefits that they had coming back from World War II, because the government then was. And
you know, there's a lot of information today. More, we have incredible. I mean, they had 2 TV networks, maybe. You know, and I remember everybody a little tiny TV, which today is such a prominent educational source. Mm-hmm. For exposure. I mean, as a kid, I was sickly. I was premature. I was always sick. I had polio. I had trouble with my lungs. I would read. I read, and I would watch these old black and white movies. Città Aperta, Roma, in Italian, with subtitles. At 4 years old, I learned how to read and speak Italian. Che cazzo faccio la cuccia?
Oh my God!
Now, don't tell anybody what I said.
Yeah, no, we won't put up a translation.
But the idea that it was an exciting time, and I think we're growing now. To simplify things is not easy today. It's just not easy.
Were your parents supportive of your acting? Did they encourage that?
They did. They tried to encourage me every way they could. You know, because I was kind of out there, and I still am. But I've also gained too much confidence, and now I've got to go back because. You know, I've got a lot of ego way out there, but I am a dreamer. You know, I'm just like a lot of younger people. I have imagination, have dreams, and a lot of frustration.
I know you spent a lot of time giving back. I know you started a children's theater. You did that. You work with anti-apartheid in Africa. I mean,
I was driving a car underage, picking up people that would be part of my little show, doing a musical and projects, in the projects, got $3 a show. and a lot of some homeless guys or whatever. I pick them up, wear a silly hat, and I had marionettes that I made.
Mm.
And that was one of the different parts of these little shows. I remember backing off the Washington, oh my God, Washington Bridge
Yeah.
down in Brooklyn. Washington, what am I saying? I can't remember the name of the bridge that I would go back and forth from Brooklyn to New York. Anyway, but just the excitement of being able to perform, which was encouraged. I had support from my big dad who tried to get me into college. I wanted to go to college, but I knew I'd already started working. I'd already started getting support. An Italian couple who were opera singers and musicians. We met in a church. They heard me singing in choir. We didn't have a Protestant church built yet where we were. And people eventually started working on this church, and we had friends in the neighborhood. But they brought me to the Catholic Church. For me, it was Latin. It was so mysterious, so beautiful, the music. And they heard me singing as a little boy, and eventually they started training me. And then they had me singing in a nightclub with their little group.
Mm.
And I worked in their recording studio to cut little songs for possible artists that they knew, like people working in Vegas or Al Martino's thing going on in New York. They would give them songs that I had cut for them. But singing in a nightclub at 14, 15, and cutting these little records at that age, I was given these gifts of support by my family, a little freedom. Next thing I know, I'm on Broadway in Fiddler. I did some shows off Broadway, and I was in Fiddler with Bette Midler.
Yeah.
I was in it, and Zero.
What an amazing performer Zero Mostel was.
All of the guys playing that role, I'll remember the names maybe in a minute, and the music. Having that gift to be able to sing. I wasn't even thinking about performing. I was thinking about stories. I was always dreaming of or involved with the stories that I was able to be a part of, which was an incredible. I learned the history, of the Ukraine and
Mm-hmm.
what was going on with that great writer of that's original story of Fiddler. And in New York, I just met so many different characters from different cultural backgrounds growing up. And, the Italian music. I mean, I love opera. My mom would sing it. And I never thought about singing. I just liked the music. I mean, eventually I met great singers. Al Martino, Dean Martin and his son in L.A. eventually.
Tony Martin.
Del mio dolce ardor, bramato getto, and all kinds of great music and stuff in New York. It's just great.
Playing the Caruso records at home. We did that too. The old Victrola.
Yeah, what a voice!
What a voice! And
some great singers in the '50s that went on to even today, the opera singers.
Do you enjoy the live performance? Do you feel that love, from the applause? Because it's not there in movies and television. You're not in front of a live audience usually. It's
different. It's very sporadic. There's a lot of chaos going on with other things and people, and it's very it's tricky. Sometimes the script itself brings an essence with the people or the leadership, the direction, where everyone seems to be on the same page. The feeling is there. My being brought into the last full measure, which that's another reason it brought this being in SEAL Team was like bringing me to today from this film, which brought us to today from the active duty in Vietnam to what these great and true story, what these men mostly were carrying and their wives and things that they'd held on to for 30 years.
Yeah.
And finally the government oh, maybe this is where this actually happened. And this may be really the story that these people carry and understand, because so many people knew. Just knowing these men, growing up for years, thousands of people showed up to honor them when they recognized the service, and that these men wanted to recognize one young man who sacrificed his life to save 60 men out of 600.
Yeah.
That we're all going to do, you know.
It's
Well,
an incredible
others
movie.
survived.
Sebastian Stan.
You saw it?
And true story, yeah. And I think we're uncovering more and more of that belated honor, because we as a nation tend to forget, but we should never forget.
In SEAL Team, you get to live with them.
Yeah.
In active duty. I mean, each one of these guys is incredible. The characters, the actors that are playing these people, like I said about David, the Jason Haight playing the character Jason Haight, or AJ. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, his energy. I know these men. They're young men. And it's amazing. 10 years maybe of service or more. And they're not 30 years old yet.
Yeah.
And they have this commitment in their heart still. When they come home, what are they going to do with it? Where do they go? Yeah. It's not easy. And the spirit, when some of these men see the work of some of these films that I've been able to do about the military, oh Mr. Savage. Even guys that I know who are active in recovery, who are over 90 years old, who served in the Second World War, they come over with like a sense of humility to say thank you. You know, I saw the deer hunter, I saw this, and you know, it was hard for me. It was hard because we don't talk about those issues that you might have to go through as a military soldier. You don't. You know, and I remember my dad sitting in a corner with vets. Like, I see these guys talking and trying to make humor with each other and ready to go in and go down. You know, even though they're a team, they're there together totally. And it's like it's really great. And my dad would sit together quiet in the corner with a lot of men in different areas of service, or women, mother and other people. And I was maybe 5 years old at the most. What are they talking about? What are they doing? They have that drink in their hand. And that was post-Korean War. And some young man, one man, I remember coming in by himself, no wife, no girlfriend, and sitting with these guys. And I sensed like an emotional event going on.
There's a connection between soldiers.
Like breaking down. Yeah. Losing control. And I didn't really understand where the words, there was no words. There was no, they don't have to talk. It was support. Just support. You and I have nothing in common except the fact that we served. And I don't know who to talk to except I understand what you went through because of what I went through. That's it.
Well, they were creating their own, street corner focus groups and, help groups in a way. Yeah.
A lot of kids do that, when they get together on the corner. And unfortunately now, if you're in the wrong neighborhood and you're the wrong color and you're hanging out with other guys on the corner, you'll have 2 cops pull up.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
There's no singing under the street lamps anymore.
No, I remember in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint, I was very young. But these guys you don't cross the street. Maybe we were very young, but don't go over there. Don't go over to that corner. Don't go over there. And those boys are bad. Those well, they were bigger than me. They were wearing really cool coats with their hair slicked back, really nice cars, and their little brothers and I would see each other. And eventually we all got together. But the idea was, these were tough kids, Polish kids, Italian kids, Jewish kids. They weren't kids, man. They were tough. Probably 15, 16 years old. They built the motorcycles. They fixed them up. and they had names on the back of their coats. And at night,
Yeah.
you want to know how tough they were? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. They were getting together and singing, man. That's what I wanted to do.
It touched you. It's amazing to me, your history and how you bring that to the screen. You are your history in acting. It informs your acting, doesn't it?
I don't know. I forget. I mean, I've been working. I feel like just I'm getting started. You know what I'm saying? And I actually think I've got over 60 years.
Wow.
What the? Who? What? Who said that? What? Who? What?
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
You're not.
I have to accept that like a lot of my lady friends and my girlfriend had just like, John, zip it, and it's good, it's wise. As a
Yeah.
husband, let me give you a little advice: zip it.
Always know when to shut up.
Know when to close it and listen. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. Oh, that was really terrible. Who knows what she said? But just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to win that argument ever.
I think we have a lot of that in our world today, where you'll see more wisdom in good leadership today. We need to see more patience. And people actually go into the neighborhoods. You've got a lot of very conservative, let's say, Republicans, who I know, like my family and the whole community when I was growing up, who may not talk about it, but like the men's groups that I'm invited to sometimes, with the Rotary clubs or whatever, they're involved with communities outside of their own.
Yeah.
With young people outside of their own. James Brown, God bless him, I hope he's well. I don't know if he passed by now, but he started the American for boys. And I saw my dad doing this at least once in my vague memory. I was a little boy in a car, and he's talking to two police officers, and there's another tall African-American man with them. He was actually a boy. To me, it looked like a big man. Big, tough guy. Wasn't smiling. But my dad, with his attitude of like pulling himself up tall, he looked like a Marine, but he was always quiet. And his hands, if they came up, they were always slow and gentle. And he convinced, for some reason, that he was willing to have this young man come with us, from the two officers. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And it turns out this man was probably about 14.
Wow.
Right? But he was tall. And my dad is tall. And my dad always had a basketball, golf clubs in the back. And I do that today. Sometimes I actually use them. But he would shoot baskets. And in pain, his feet always had pain. Well, he loved basketball. He went to college after service. He went to Adelphi out on Long Island. And he is one of the many, and my mom too, to help make it a co-ed university, I think, for the men coming back. And he was on a basketball team, and we'd go to the basketball games at Adelphi. And that, like other young people he met as a young man from other communities. And, my mom told him, like, the squad that he fought for in his dreams to try to save after the war, he lost them all. He lost all of them. He was a gunner. And they didn't have the same sort of political views. All right? And I go through this now. A lot of the men I get together with, they're different than the things I do. A lot of these shows on the computer, what do they call them? Podcasts or whatever. And they discuss things having to do with either after military service, work, difficulty with finding it, or how do they apply themselves in this area of service to the community or work or issues that they're having with a lot of the demonstrations recently, this whole thing, they would stop before critical, judgment. Nope, not where they're going to go. They may have different political positions, but they would go to a place and then we're going to have to fix those shops up. We got to go to that one shop. They tore that whole thing down, and that poor old couple. They own that shop, and they tore it down. Hey, all right, we're going to go. We will go there and help them. Skip the politics. It's like my dad with that hand going out. He couldn't get a job. I remember my mom's shaking her head sometimes. But he'd pull himself together and take me somewhere to meet people or go talk to some men about their issues and stuff, and maybe talk about getting an organized baseball team as we got bigger. Young people, getting them together, Boy Scouts. I started Boy Scout. What do we do about it? Not how do we confront other people different than us with their things.
Yeah.
Whatever energy was coming up, and some of it may be a little bit of frustration, but they wanted to find a purpose, and that's what we've got to do.
I think your father left you with a wonderful gift because you really do the same thing in your life. I
did it for a while, but now I stopped drinking. No, that's another story.
Well, that's good that you did, but your community service, I mean, you do carry on that legacy, whether you know it or not.
Not enough, and so I talk a lot about it, and a lot of people get tired of me talking about it. I've been to other countries, and I remember standing up and involved with the development of a union for the business in South Africa, and these young people were doing so much, really working, and I was a part of that. And I stood up at one of the meetings to speak, and the young fellow who was a friend said, "Sit down, Mr. Savage. You're not South African."
No.
Oh, they were getting it. I'd done my duty, I'd done enough, and it's that happens a lot too sometimes too, because I do talk too much.
But before we wrap up, and my God, what a great conversation I've had with you.
Me too. Thank you.
Do you have a favorite role, a favorite movie that you've been in, or are they all your children?
Yeah, that was nicely put, because I'm lost sometimes with what I have to where to put my priorities. I mean, even in my work, sometimes sometimes I can fall into something that it's like the words are just there. I'm there. And it's like in this opportunity, I was involved with this feeling of I was that father of those two young people, the young woman and the young man. And I saw them as that. I didn't see him as my son. He was in my heart, but he was now a young man. And I'd watched her change, but I was not a part of her life. I was isolated. And that feeling of where do I put my priorities now?
Yeah.
In this feeling for them or him. I want them to have a future. And it's theirs, not mine, not this ranch, not my worries, not my frustration and my depression and all that. No, that's nah. My energy and my hope, whatever he's going through, something? I'm proud of him. You're going to be okay. Damn, I can tell you've changed. You're carrying something on your shoulders. Just you're coming here and walking around and breathing. You got something. You got a relief. But that's all it is. You got a life in you. Those men who built this with you are your commitment. It's not over. You've lost men over there. They're in your heart. There's men you still have a duty with, independent of anybody but yourself, with them. Your soul can disappear sometimes. It's like, where do I put my priorities in life?
Yeah.
Be here now. Thank you, God. Thank you for everything. My state of confusion is a gift. Slow down.
I like the way you put that.
Hey, the Italians, they
Hey,
don't. Where you from? Naples, Sicily, Venezia.
Tuscany.
Huh?
Tuscany.
Tuscany. I just was working over there. I was up in
Beautiful.
Tuscany. Beautiful film, wonderful film about some issues with family in Italy. I played. I'll probably put it in Italian. I speak Italian really well because they got great actors who dub the words for me. I'm not speaking it, but I just work. We were working with a company there. We're going to go back because of this thing. We've had to postpone a lot of stuff. And I've worked in Italy for years. For me, it's a gift. And
Yeah, it is a gift. I try to get there, every couple of years and just relax. Verona is my favorite place on earth. I mean, I just love Verona.
Right. Well, that's a secret. Don't tell everybody.
I know you spent a little time in Salt Lake City. You did a Touch by an Angel out here at one time.
That was such an like out of nowhere miracle because we had just been attacked in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Bob's wife, Bob Anderson, who is captain of the harbor, police officer, his wife called me and said, "John, it's 4:30 in the morning there where we were. It's 4:30 in the morning." She said, "John, you got to turn the TV on." And my God, somebody crashed into the building.
Yeah.
What crashed their plane into the building, it's the towers, the downtown. And then, boom, the second one. We screamed, "It's war.
Yeah.
It's war. We're at war." And all my friends in New York, a lot of the people I know, some women that could not leave their apartment for months. And I got a call that day, "Mr. Savage, we've lost the ability to fly people out here for our program, for our filming for Touched by an Angel. My son has a mental disorder. He's doing great with his program. We'd like you to play this fellow with a mental disorder, but would you mind driving out here for this episode?" Thank you.
Yeah.
I needed that.
You needed a road trip and you needed that job.
I needed that specific job.
Yeah.
Getting out of this, putting this and this together is not easy sometimes,
Mm.
And that's when those kind of jobs come up, it's like.
Well, that group was a great group. Roma and Martha and Della. They were like family to us.
They are angels. There are angels here around us. A lot of men, women, children. And we get confused about stuff, but we are blessed, and so I get a little too weird here.
It's okay because I'm blessed to talk to you. I mean, again, as I started this interview, you are one of my favorite actors, and now you're one of my favorite people because I very rarely get to do interviews with no walls. And I appreciate that because hearing about your dad, your family, the way you grew up, your love for acting.
And my support of my parents who let me follow that path. They supported that path. That to find a path in life is a gift,
Yeah. In our seconds that we have left,
yeah.
What advice do you have to a young actor or actress trying to make it in this business?
Pause when agitated. I heard that recently. I have to
apply to affected area. I love that phrase too.
Breathe.
Yeah,
keep it simple. Breathe, and agree with the other people, even if you don't agree with them. Just yes, okay. To a director, take it easy. I get too wrapped up in my own head if I'm not careful. Get in my own way sometimes.
Every so often you got to step out of yourself and listen to the birds.
Yeah.
John, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to.
That picture you have of David.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an image. It's like AJ Buckley and Hannah, the great people I got to work with. I saw a lot of great directing and writing in this series that, for me, is uplifting in our world today, right now, what we're going through. So,
yeah, these series are not like we used to watch, like Combat, and the Rat Patrol. These are really deep characters that go beyond, what was on the written word. These actors are amazing in these shows.
And it's not so different than what are in our world.
No.
It's not so different for a lot of challenges a young kid might see on the street he lives on. But, what are you going to do, right?
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Exactly.